In this video, you're going to build your very first Node app. You will also get introduced to some similarities and differences between Node or JavaScript in Node.js and JavaScript in the browser. So first, I'm going to create a folder inside the Node folder and call it your first Node app. So just to make things tidy, I'm going to open only this folder for now inside brackets. So I'm going to show it in the Finder and just drag it in brackets. So now let's create a file and call it app.js. So this is the file where we're going to write our JavaScript code. And then after that, we'll be able to run our Node app. So let's start with something really simple, a console.log statement, and see how we can run this simple app. So I suggest going for something similar to this in terms of layout, just to make things clear and easy. So at the moment, I'm inside this folder, so I need to move inside this one. So let's go to the desktop, and then Node, and then this one. So by the way, you see the backslashes there just to escape the spaces. All right. So now we are in the correct folder. So you are now ready to run the app. So to run the app, the command is node, and then followed by the name of the app. So let's try this. And here we go. You can see the output of the console.log. So this is very similar to what you get in the browser developer console. So if you go to Chrome, for example, and go to the developer tools, open the console, then if you type console.log hi, you get the output in the console. So in Node, you get the output in the terminal. Now you can decide to place the outputs inside a file. So to do that, you can just use the double than greater than sign, and you add the file name. So you can create a file .text, for example, and this way you can append whatever you run in this command inside that file. So we're not going to do that for now. All right, so now let's add some more content inside our file. So let's add another console.log statement, and then another one. Okay, and if you try that again, you get the full output. All right, so now let's get introduced to some important variables in Node. So the first one is the process variable. So the process variable is the equivalent of the document variable inside the browser. So if you go to the browser and you console.log document, this is what you get. So inside documents, you can see all the contents of your web pages. All right. And documents comes with some really handy methods. So for example, you can get elements by ID, and you can do so many other things. Now in Node, the equivalent of document is process. So let's try to log process and see what we get. So this is what the process variable looks like. You can see so many properties inside this object. So if you want to know more about this global objects, you can head to the Node website and go to the documentation. So docs, and then we're looking at the latest version at the moment, and then you can go to process. So inside process, you'll find so many things. So for example, let's check process.argv. So this one will return an array containing the command line arguments that you passed when you launched your Node process. So for example, if you run this, followed by arguments, then the output would be the location of the Node executable. This comes first, followed by the different arguments of your command. So the first argument is the file. So in our case, it was app.js, and we didn't pass any other arguments. So if we look for argv, in our case, you can see that we've got only two elements, the location of our executable and then the app.js file. And this is the full path of our file. Now, if we try this with extra arguments, so for example, I'm going to add first name, last name, then if we check argv this time, we'll find a couple of more elements. All right. So this is regarding argv. So now let's check another one, process.env. This is another important one, which we'll be using later. So inside this one, you'll see information about the environment of the user. So for example, you can see the shell, and this is the full path of your bash executable. You remember that from the previous video. You can see the path variable. We covered this one as well. And you can see also the home directory of the current user. All right. So this is a quick overview of the process variable, and it's a very important global object. Now let's go back to the terminal and check another important variable, which is global. So global is very similar to the window global objects in the browser. So this one will include functions like clear interval, clear timeout, set interval. So functions that come with Node.js, just like they are attached as an add-on to the browser. So by the way, functions like set timeout, they are actually parts of the DOM APIs. They don't come with JavaScript directly. And similarly in Node, a function like this one is actually provided by Node, not by the V8 JavaScript engine. All right. So you won't find this one in the ECMAScript specification, for example. So if you want to check that, you can go to the Node website and in the documentation, look for timers and then let's look for set timeout. All right, and you can see that set timeout was added in Node in version 0.0.1. All right, so this is not part of the V8 engine or the JavaScript V8 engine. It's actually part of Node itself, just like it is attached to the browser APIs. Now, if you want, you can compare set timeout to a function like math.random. So you'll see that set timeout is actually attached to this object, while math.random is actually part of ECMAScript. So let's save our file and run the app again. Well, let's comment this line and try again. So that's our global object. All right. And you can see inside this object functions like clear interval, clear timeout, set timeout, and so on. Perfect. All right, now let's create another simple app which will just greet a user if they provide their first name and last name. So in this scenario, we're going to pass to the node command both the name of our new file, then the arguments first name and then last name. So let's create a new file and call it greet.js. So first we need to retrieve the arguments from the command. So we're going to define the first name variable. So we're going to go to the process variable and then go to argv. So if you remember, the first element was the full path of the node executable. Then the second one was the file you pass to the node command. And then comes the next argument. So we're looking at position 2. All right. And then we need the last name. And that's going to be in position 3. As it's the next one. All right. So now what we want to log hello, first name, then last name. So you just need to make sure that you are comfortable with the E6 features. Otherwise, you can just go back to the E6 bonus section. So now this should work. So let's try this. So I'm going to run node greet.js and pass something like Steve Jobs. And you can see here, hello, Steve Jobs. So let's just add an exclamation mark right there. And this looks better. Okay, so now let's improve our code so that if we pass the first name and last name like this, we print the first name and last name starting with a capital letter. So there is a function in JavaScript which is toUpperCase, which is a method of the string objects, which will turn the whole first name or last name to capital letters, but we want to capitalize only the first letter. So to do this, what you can do, so first of all, we're going to be changing the first name. So it's going to be let instead of const. All right. So first of all, we need to capitalize the first letter. So we're going to get the first letter. So we're going to store everything inside first name. So we get the first letter of first name. So that's the element at position 0 inside first name. And then we turn it to uppercase. Like that. And then after that, we need to print the remaining of first name. So we start at position 1 and we keep going. And there is a useful function for that. It's substring. So if you pass to substring only one argument, so for example 1, then it's going to return the string starting from position 1. So for example, if we've got Steve, then the first letter is going to be first name at position 0, which we turn to uppercase. And then first name dot substring of 1 will start at position 1 and keep going until the end, and it's going to return this. So at the end, you will get capital S plus Steve. All right. And let's do the same thing for the last name, or just create a function if you like. And let's call it upper first. All right. So this function will take a string and will return this. Okay. Let's replace this with upper first of first name. And then this with uppercase of last name. So let's try our code. And it's working. Perfect. All right, so in the next video, you're going to move to file exports, which will allow you to pass variables and functions or methods between different JavaScript files.